Hello and welcome, Exiles, to the day 3/4 update to the poisonous concoction of balancing Elementalists. We're up to the point where we're just kind of chain farming some T17s, and we'll go ahead and start out with a showcase. I'm doing an Atlas with a bunch of mod effect, basically rushing the boss to get the fragments is what I'm doing, which I think is a decent strategy. The fragments, for the most part, can pay for the map basically by themselves. So I kind of like to just run straight to the boss. I click on these, dude. Random little side note about these mercs is does anyone else feel like they feel bad in terms of, like, how do I say this? I've clicked on over 300 mercenaries, and my average loot from each mercenary was about 1 to 1.5 chaos. Each time I stop, and I stopped even checking out their gear because it just didn't feel like it was worth the time, so to speak. Because, like, I'll stop, check out the gear and whatnot, see what the guy has on him, but usually it's just gear that's not really too resellable. Like, it's okay, it's like decently rolled rares, but at this point in the league, those decently rolled rares are pretty not valuable per se. But yeah, anyways, random little side note. I'm hoping they buff mercs. I know people are gonna, like, some people are getting mirrors, but, like, for the rest of us, they're giving basically no loot. The good news about this is our character with the ES swap is now so tanky that we can pretty much just face tank the vast majority of T17 mods. We have recover on block with, okay, Shaper, who invited you here with your beam? I was gonna talk. Anyways, basically the vast majority of T17 mods our character is suited for. We have recover on block on our shield with 78 spell block and 56 attack block. We'll be able to up the attack block a little bit more if I do better Eldritch Currency on my chest. If I change my anoint, technically I can get a higher block anoint, but right now we're sitting at about 11.6k ES with recover on block with, I think, about 90% lucky suppress right now. It's 62, it's about 80-ish lucky suppress. There is a way for me to get additional suppress, which is basically doing a recombination shield where instead of, this isn't even an ideal base. I want to do a hybrid ES evasion base with the suppress Supreme Spike Shield and go for a suppress on the shield, and we could actually suppress cap on this character on top of having 78 spell block, which will just make us feel so freaking good. But anyways, other upgrades we made besides going to ES is we went for doing a Awakener Orb, elevated non-ailment effect plus Tailwind. What this did is it helps us cap our shock effect on enemies. We were at like 40-ish shock, now we're at full 50% shock on enemies, as well as it ups our self-chill. In that map, we had about a 23 self-chill, so we have self-chill 23 action speed, and we have Tailwind for another 8 action speed. Starting to feel really clean in terms of just speed. If you could tell in the map, where our character moves like a freaking bullet. It feels like as fast as a Mageblood character for the most part. It feels dang near good. Anyways, reverse chill versus poison rings. If you've seen, there's some rings called biting, sting, steel ring, something like that. They have chance to additional poison. From what I could tell when we did a map test, I did a minnow map test where I had 2 of those rings with 40% chance for an additional poison each. And then I tested with basically just rings that had dex to fix my dex requirement. So those rings should have felt like 80% more damage or like double the like speed in which I killed the Minotaur. For my test, it was like the same exact kill time. I don't think those rings are working, just a heads up. But the thing is, we're doing reverse chill instead, which feels pretty dang good for just overall speed. And of course, the faster we're throwing our flasks is also a damage multiplier as well. So I'm pretty happy with this, even though there was maybe that option to go giga damage. Further investment into the character we've made, aside from going to ES, is we also decided to go to Supreme Ostentation. I was having a bit of a scuffed time getting enough strength and enough dex for my golems, as well as enough int to wear Twilight Regalia, and I wanted to make use of the new tattoo, 40% global defense with reduced attributes. So I decided to actually go Supreme Ostentation, which allows us to tattoo a lot of our stuff. You'll notice we're doing a block chance Blue Nightmare here, which is giving like 3 block, 3 block, 3 block, 3 block, 4 block, 3 block, which is how we're getting such high block chance, as well as it allows us to tattoo other things here like prod speed, or eventually we can tattoo suppress to suppress cap. That'll be maybe a late game thing, but point is we're getting to get a lot of nice tattoos as well as frenzy on hit into the build. So that's what we ended up swapping to here, and it allowed us to fix our reses a little bit easier, so I could craft suppress on my gear. I didn't need as much attribute crafts throughout the gear pieces. Another thing I did a Shaper plus Crusader belt and dense fossil spam to get the increased ES from body armor, as well as the increased ES and the flat ES mod. And then we went for a veiled mod, and we got regen, and we slammed on reduced enemy stun threshold. Eventually, I might try to recraft the suffixes, but for right now, that's what we got on our crystal belt. So those are pretty much some of the changes we made on rare gear. One thing I want to talk about, which is this is a change we made on day 3, because this is a combination of day 3 and day 4. I'm going to have the POBs of the progression of day 3 and 4, just so you can see the difference, because yesterday I just made a video highlighting the helmet, which is we also changed to doing a Forbidden Flesh and Flame for Vile Bastion. This allows us to get stun immunity as an ES build, and you'll notice we invested into a lot of spell block with Recover on block to make our mitigation for spells just feel really freaking good. But the other reason we did that is because it gives us about 78% 78% increased ES. For every point of spell block we have, we get percent increased ES from this Ascendancy point, which makes our spell block feel doubly efficient. It helps us scale our ES, and it helps us scale our mitigation. So that's why we're doing this Lightning Res Tattoo plus spell block angle was Forbidden Flesh and Flame. Now, if these are too expensive, because these kind of shot up in price, I got them for 2D. They were really cheap when I bought them, but I think people have been price fixing them or flipping, or people just buying them for the build. I wouldn't necessarily want to buy them for the current prices, which I think last night some people had them listed for 20D, which seems kind of crazy this early on. You can always look for other Forbidden Flesh and Flames or just rare jewels. I'll showcase right now the difference this makes in ES real quick for you. We have 11.6 and we go to 9.7. It's about 2,000 energy shield. Could my character do T17s on 10k ES versus 11.6? Well, the good news is literally yesterday I had about 10k ES and I was doing T17s just fine. So I would say it's not mandatory. What you're going to do instead of this jewel is you need to solve stun. So I would recommend grabbing a mastery like this that says increased stun threshold based on your ES, so 50% of your ES, so it'll give you like a 5k based on threshold, and you're going to want to grab Brine King, basically for the stun mitigation. That's what I'd recommend doing, and then potentially, if you want to swap Arctic Armor, you could swap Arctic Armor for Discipline if you grabbed a 15% reservation mastery like this, the Rune Grafted Treachery. I'm not running this right now because I have enough reservation space as is, but I think I might go back to using it when I need to update my reservation a little bit more to fit in some stuff where I might swap out haste for discipline. There's some changes I'm thinking about making potentially as another upgrade to the build, but that is hopefully going to happen today, hopefully. Another thing people have been asking me about is Replica Dragonfang's kind of expensive. What should I do instead? Your cheapest option is going to be the Fury Valve, I believe. +2 projectiles, has the split mechanic, gives you a little bit of res. That amulet is a good starter amulet. Another option is going for a amulet that has like really good suffixes. Let's say it has dot multi and some resistances, or dot multi and some other good suffixes to go along with it maybe. And then do a suffix can't be changed, reforge chaos, that'll give you +1 chaos, and then like benchcraft ES if you're on the ES setup, or benchcraft life if you're on the life setup. +2 amulet with 26 dot multi should just outright be better than a Dragon Fang is, and that's something I'm thinking about crafting. I might be going for a rare amulet, either doing the +2 with dot multi, or I might consider going for a reflected amulet. I haven't 100% decided yet, but that is the next progression goals for an upgrade on the character. And yeah, hopefully that gives a rundown of all the things we swapped to. Oh, another thing we did is we finally swapped out a Bastion of Elements. Once we started getting a higher chill effect, I feel like having the damage mitigation of reducing the enemy's damage with chill starts to feel worth it. And if we invest in a little bit more chill effect, it will continue to be worth it. And on top of that, another thing I should note, I didn't think about this, but initially when I was into 5-link, I was igniting. This was giving me damage mitigation. And what I forgot about was when I swapped to a 6-link, I added in Awakened Void Manipulation because it's one of the best damage links. The thing about Awakened Void Manipulation is it disables your ignite from dealing any damage. And when you have 0 damage on your ignite, you actually it doesn't count as igniting an enemy, which means this I was basically disabling this Ascendancy point. All you need to do is swap out Awakened Void Manipulation for Awakened Deadly Ailments. It should be fairly similar damage. I think Void Manip is a little bit better, but you get the idea of this being a good option. Okay. And then last but not least, how do we craft gear pieces? For the chest piece, for the gloves, and for the belt, it's dense fossils, and then doing maybe a little bit of Eldritch Currency for suffixes, Or for in this case, in my belt case, I did a previous can be changed, and I did a veiled orb, and I went to unveil basically regen or res, something like that is what you're looking at. And then for crafting the sockets on the chest piece, basically you want to get, I would at least do a white socket for at least the first or second socket. You don't have to. You could just do 2 green sockets, and then you build it out with doing the socket recipe: 2 socket, 3 socket, 2 socket, 3 socket, until you get a 3rd green socket, and then 3 socket, 4 socket, 3 socket, 4 socket. You do that so on and so forth until you have 5 greens and 1 blue. It's a little bit awkward doing a pure ES base chest piece and getting 5 greens, but that is how you do it, and you 6 link it after the fact. Of course, I would recommend doing tailoring orbs before you start doing the socket stuff, because tailoring orbs will brick sockets after the fact, so usually that's one of the first steps you want to do if you're thinking about tailoring orbs. All right, that goes over these 3 pieces. As for the last piece here, what I would recommend is getting a Warlock pair, going and putting a Redeemer influence on it, get a decent quality pair, put a Redeemer influence on it, then do Reforge Physical. This will always give you a gain Physis extra, and you're doing that until you hit T1 non-damaging element effects. Basically, it's like a Chaos Orb that guarantees 1 influence mod, essentially. And then, after that, you want to do a Orb of Dominance to elevate the non-damaging ailment effect, and then slam on Awaken Orb with Tailwind on the boots. Hope you hit some okay res. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. And then do a Suffix Can't Be Changed Veiled Orb. Whenever I mention Suffix Can't Be Changed, by the way, use a Bristle Matron. They're just cheaper on trade than 2 Divines. They're like 120, 130 C, which is like less than half the price of the 2 Divine Metacraft. So save yourself some money. Whenever I say Suffix Can't Be Changed, I'm talking about doing a Bristle Matron because they're just cheaper. But yeah, Bristle Matron, Veiled Orb, block, slam. I hit life. Would be nice if you hit ES, but you don't have to get too try hard with it until you really want to start min-maxing. So yeah, that is the idea for the gear changes we made and the current setup we are running. Hopefully you like this update to the character. As always, thanks for watching, Exiles, and take care. Hope your league starts going well.